All right, well, I'm excited about this week's lesson because we're going to cover a lot of information all around improvising, more specifically around which notes you land on when you're improvising. If you're playing a little phrase and you want to know sort of which note do you stop on, or which note do you even start with? It's knowing these target notes. This is a question that comes up a lot. And I was going to put together a chart and, charts that kind of go with chords and all that. But then I realized there's a much better, easier formula, and it's all using your ear. And even if you're not super developed and you don't think you have a good ear, this formula is so basic and simple. Anybody can do it. And I'm going to show you how to do that using just the 7 notes of the major scale and how to find the right note. And so we're going to break that down in this video, and then we'll talk about sort of a level 2, how you can even make that sound better. So I've got all of that information in this video. There is a song that I'm going to pull together at the end of this video that sort of takes everything together and puts it into something tangible that you can practice. If you like access to the tablature for that song, as well as the on-screen tab viewer for that, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP570. I'm going to start off by talking about a little bit of theory. We're going to talk about the major scale. We're going to talk about the chords that go with the major scale, chord family, and all of that, playing in the key of a song. If you already know what those things are and you don't want to be bothered with that, you can skip ahead to the time that's on the screen right now and just sort of skip past this theory part. But I do need to put this into the video because it's like a major prerequisite to understanding all the other stuff. And if you understand this theory component, the rest of it's all going to totally make sense. Okay, let's start this way. We're going to start with the major scale. And we're going to be playing in the key of A. So we're going to play the A major scale. And I'm going to show it to you in one position. We're going to be playing out of the E shape, for those of you that understand the cage system. I'll put a lesson up on the screen if you want to understand what I'm talking about when I say the E shape. But we're going to look at the major scale right here. And there's really 7 notes in the major scale, 7 unique notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This last note here is a repeat of the first note. It's just an octave higher. Okay, so I want you to just start off and play that major scale. Get your fingering right. So put your pinky over the 7th fret, and then your ring finger over the 6th, your middle finger over the 5th, and then your index finger over the 4th. And play up the scale. And then back down. All right, so those are the notes of the major scale. Now here's what's cool. Each of those 7 notes that we just looked at have a corresponding chord that goes with them. Maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't. But instead of just playing a single note, for example, like starting with that A note, I can play a full chord that represents that note, and I can do that for each. Now, it's not quite as simple as you might think. It's not just playing major chords for each. There's actually a formula. And let me show you that formula. We'll put it up on the screen. So your first chord, the 1 in your major scale, is a major chord. The 2 is a minor chord. The 3 is a minor chord. Your 4 is a major chord. Your 5 is a major chord. Your 6 is minor. Your 7 is a diminished chord. And that's kind of the oddball chord. And then you get back to your root, which is your major chord. So that formula is critical. Major, minor, minor. Major, major, minor, diminished. The reason that formula is critical is we can apply that to any note on our fretboard, any of the 12 notes in music. So if I came down to this note, for example, that would be an F sharp. So I could play my F sharp chord using the E shape, and I could do all the same stuff we just did right up here. So I could play my F sharp major scale. Same formula, same pattern as we played down here. We just moved everything down, right? And we could also take that chord formula that we just went through and apply that to each of the notes here, so I can get all of the chords in the key of F sharp. So check this out. So what that gives me is all the chords. That's what you call that, the chord family for the key of F sharp. So if I want to write a song in the key of F sharp, any of those chords I just played are going to work. Those are going to work well in key. And that's really one of the key purposes of the circle of fifths, is to show you which chords work together in a chord family. So when you're writing a song in a certain key, you know which chords to use. Maybe you've thought of that, maybe you knew that, or maybe you didn't. If you didn't know that, that's a huge light bulb. So let's get back to the key of A. So now we know the chords for the key of A. So why am I showing you the chords for the key of A? When we go through those 7 notes of the A major scale, and I showed you all the chords in the chord family for the key of A, did you know that each of those chords were made up of the notes of the A major scale? The major chords, the minor chords, each of those chords, the minor ones, even the diminished one, were made up of a combination of 3 of these notes from your major scale. So what does that mean then? I'm going to put on a jam track here in just a minute with these chords, but it's got an A, which is your 1 chord, D, which is your 4 chord, F sharp minor, which is your minor 6 chord, and then E7, which is your 5 chord. So you can see I've got major chords, got a minor chord thrown in there. But when I'm improvising, I could theoretically then just play the A major scale. There's a really good chance that any of those notes will work against any of the chords in the song. And here's the cool thing. If the note doesn't work, just go up or down 1 note in the major scale and it will work. I don't mean to overwhelm with information. I'm just trying to give you the context of everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on a jam track that has the chords I just showed you, all in the key of A, and we're going to go through each note in the A major scale, and we're going to see how the note works with that chord. And I'm going to show you if it doesn't work, all you'll need to do is move either 1 step down or 1 step up in the major scale. So check this out. All right, I'm going to start with my A, and I'm going to go through each note in the major scale. I want you to hear how it sounds against these chords. Here's the A against the 1 chord. A good fit, right? There it is against the 4 chord. It works there as well. It works against the minor 6 chord. How about the 5 chord? It's kind of pulling me. It's pulling my ear to go to a lower note in the major scale. I could have gone to the next note up as well. I'll show you here. Watch this. Here's the 5 chord. Could have played the next note up as well. And that way it doesn't give you that unresolved sound. Let's go to the 2 now from the major scale. There it is against my 1 chord. Kind of weird. Kind of weird there is 2. When it sounds weird and not resolved, go to the next note up in your major scale, or the note below it in the major scale. See, that's a much better resolve. And I'm using my ear to tell me. I don't need a chart for this. Works great over the 5 chord though. Okay, now let's go up to the 3rd interval of our major scale. Sounds great against the 1 chord. There it is against the 4. See, I wanted to go a step above there. There it is against the minor 6. How about the 5 chord? See, I wanted to go a step below there. I could have gone, remember, you can go above or below if it just sounds unresolved. Hopefully you're getting this. I know it's pretty basic, but this is what it's all about, is hearing these notes, hearing these intervals. Let's go to the 4th interval. Sounds terrible against the 1 chord. Sounds great against the 4 chord though, it's 4th interval. Sounds bad against the minor 6, so I'll just go down 1 and it works. Sounds great against the 5, it's the flat 7 of your 5 chord. See what I'm doing here? On the notes that it works against, I keep it, and if it doesn't, I just go down 1. And when I say down 1, it's 1 step in the major scale. There's my note, sorry. There's the 5th interval. Sounds great against the 1, sounds great against the 4. Sounds great against the minor 6. It sounds great against the 5 chord. So that 5th interval works against all of them. 1 probably wants to go maybe a step above, which is the 4 chord. It's really just a matter of taste, you know, there's no right answer. Let's go to the 6th interval. Against the 1, kind of weird, but it works in a way. There's the 4 chord. There's your minor 6 chord, works against that. For the 5 chord, I wanted to go down a step. I could go down a step for the 1 chord as well. See what's going on here? Okay, so I hope you get the idea of this. Well, let's do the 7. We'll do the 7th interval as well, so we've gone through all of them. So here's the 7. Here it is against the 1. Ready? So that gives me that kind of major 7 sound. So kind of dreamy sounding, but not resolved. See, I can go up a step and it resolves. It works great against the 5 chord though. There it is against the 1. There it is against the 4. You see what's going on there? So it just depends. If I wanted to sound dreamy, I could just leave it there. But if I don't, if I want it to resolve, I just go up a step. So now let's do 3 notes at a time. We'll limit ourselves to 3. We'll do the first 3 notes of the major scale. These 3 notes. So check this out. I can land on any of these 3 notes, but only these 3. So that works. See what's happening there? My ear is starting to tell me what to do. They're just telling my fingers what to do. Now I'm going to go to the next 3 notes in the major scale. So it's the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. These are the only 3 notes I can use right now. I have to resolve and land on notes. So I'm going to pick the right ones, the one that sounds the best. See what's going on there? It's just using my ear. I don't need a chart. Okay, so now let's use the next 3 notes. So we're going to play the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So look at what's going on there. So I landed on the 5th interval for the 5 chord. And that's all I'm doing is I'm just taking 3 notes at a time and I'm spending time on trying to figure out which one resolves the best. And you've only got 3, so if you get the wrong one, you just get one of the other 2. It's a really great ear training exercise, and it forces you to start feeling this stuff and hearing it. I can't think of a better way to do that. All right, so what we've looked at so far, I'm calling this level 1. It's really just using your ear and the major scale to figure out which note to land on. You've got 7 notes. You don't have to play all over the fretboard. Just take any spot on the fretboard where you can play the major scale and use your ear to tell you what the next note is. Okay, level 2 is just a minor tweak to that, and we're going to add some chromatic notes. So we're going to take those same notes of your major scale, but we're going to play some of those notes in between. In particular, there's 2 spots that work really well, at least in this position on the fretboard. So it goes like this. So when I'm playing the major scale, I start on this 4th string, right? And then when I come up to the 3rd string, I play frets 4, 6, and then 7. Notice I skipped the 5th fret. So when you're playing chromatically, you're kind of filling in those notes that you skip, or the frets that you skip on the fretboard. So you can play like this. Okay, and then the same thing happened on the 2nd string. I went fret 5 and 7, but we skipped the 6th fret. We can play that if we're playing chromatically, so we can go. Now, why would I want to play those chromatic notes? They're technically wrong. They're not in key. Well, it just kind of jazzes up your playing. It makes it sound a little more sophisticated. That's why I'm calling this level 2. Now here's the key though. You don't land on those notes. Those are not target notes. So when we were going through our exercise just then, those are the notes that are target notes, not these chromatic notes. They're just passing tones or notes that you just sort of pass by on your way to one of those target notes. So you can go and just sort of hit the notes along the way. Let me demonstrate that. Okay, so I'm going to play the major scale without chromatic notes, or the notes of the major scale. But here's what it sounds like with the chromatic notes. Hear the difference? It just sort of jazzes it up a little bit. So notice I'm still landing on those target notes, so I'm not spending a lot of time on those chromatic notes, but they are there as I'm passing by. That was sort of a flat 7 thing. Okay, so I'm considering that kind of a level 2, is adding those chromatic notes into your major scale. All right, so now I want to pull everything we've talked about together into a little composition to conclude this video so that you can see some of the potential of what you can do. Now, I'm using some chromatic notes as well that we talked about also, but it's using these 7 notes in this position of the major scale. So we're going to end with this. If you'd like to get the tablature for this and also access the on-screen tab viewer for this composition, you can get those things, remember, by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and search for EP570.